Good afternoon, traders. This is CloudChartist with your weekly Ichimoku wrap-up for the week ending July 15th. It is the 17th, Sunday night. The markets have another hour before they open. So we're going to start off looking at the ES. We see the ES made an all-new high last week of 2168. That was the third bullish candle in a row after the trend change occurred here after the touch of the cloud on the 27th, week ending the 27th. We have been above the Tenkan-sen ever since then. We are getting a little bit extended above the Tenkan-sen to the upside. We do have a flat cloud down below. Flat clouds tend to attract price towards them. So if we do get a pullback, I would look for the Tenkan-sen to hold. The Tenkan-sen is currently at 2053, 2053, 50. No, I'm sorry, I'm incorrect. Tenkan-sen is currently at 2074, 75. It may indeed open higher when the new candle opens to reflect the upward momentum. We did have a bit of a topping tail, suggesting that we could get some sideways flagging action. And potential mean reversion pullback to the downside, which I would expect to be supported by the Tenkan-sen. Let's move on to CL. Crude does look to me like a bit of an inverse head and shoulders type bottoming pattern, for the record. In fact, this pullback that we're experiencing right now could be putting in a right shoulder, inverse right shoulder. Looks possible to me, but we will zoom back in. So we noticed that last week, after 2 weeks ago, this pullback that closed inside the cloud, taking us from bullish to neutral on crude on the weekly time frame. See that we put in a bounce from about the same level that we closed out on the week before, just a slightly lower low, and we tried to make it out of the cloud, but you see that we closed right exactly on the cloud. The cloud is at 46.26 and we closed at 46.20. Let's see, sorry, we closed at 46.28, so we just closed 2 ticks or 2 cents above the cloud. So I would expect it could be entirely possible. I'll zoom in a little bit to make it clearer. That if we remain above the cloud, we could come up and test the Tenkan-sen from the bottom. The Tenkan-sen may be flat at the same level, 48.05. It could even be pointing down a little bit, but I would not be surprised to see it open up flat at that 48.05 level. So we can look at resistance at 48 to the upside. If we do continue lower, it's likely, I think, that we'll find support in the same area, this 45.08 area. That is the level of this flat cloud coming up with the new candle is going to be partially over. All right. If we do get a move down to the downside, we have plenty of support inside the cloud, all the way down to the Kijun-sen at 38.86 and below. All right. Let's look at some other U.S. indexes. Let's look at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ looking like the ES, similar in candle structure, also bullish above the cloud, above the Tenkan-sen. Tenkan-sen's pointing up. There's no reason to think that we should pull back except for the long topping tail on last week's candle. But even so, last week we did, make a higher high. We do have all of this area of previously tested price action to look at for levels to the upside. And if we do get a pullback, I would expect the Tenkan-sen to hold. Let's zoom in a little bit. We do have this prior gap area that could hold as support if we do get a pullback, and we could see some oscillations above the Tenkan-sen. We do have a descending cloud, so that is potentially bearish, offering lower levels of support. But still, for the moment, we are fully bullish in Ichimoku terms for the NASDAQ. Let's look at the Russell. Russell blasting forth another candle above the cloud. The Chikou is still inside the cloud on the Russell, so the Chicago could run into resistance if we do get a move higher to the upside on the Russell at around 1237.80. So we closed at 1197. So keep that level in mind if we do get a move higher to the upside. If we do get a pullback, we could look at the Tenkan Sen to hold as support. It's currently at 1144.60. Probably will open a bit higher, I would guess, reflecting the momentum to the upside from last week's candle. Okay, let's look at the Dow. Similar to the other indexes that we've looked at, the Dow does have a pretty flat oscillating wave here, so cloud here, so we could expect some sideways price action reflecting that sideways looking cloud. If we do get a pullback, I would expect the Tenkan Sen to hold currently at 17,725. I would not be surprised to see Tenkan Sen open up around 17,880s, something like that. Let's look at some metals. Gold has been getting a nice pullback last week after putting in some topping tails up here in the 1370, 1365, 1370 area. Now getting a pullback, we could see we do have a little bit of a gap to fill in between these two candles. And we might have spiked that. Let's see, the close here was 1319.10 and the low was 1320.40, so it didn't quite stab that that gap from this to this candle. So it's potential that we could continue to pull back, maybe get a bounce off the Tenkan Sen. Tenkan Sen's currently all the way down at 1289.50, and I would expect with this new candle making a lower low that it will stay flat. Let's look at silver. Silver put in a spinning top doji after a larger long-legged spinning top doji after a very bullish uptrend candle. So it looks like the momentum in buying silver is indeed slowing down. And we're still in an uptrend because this is an inside candle that happened last week. But it does look like a reversal candle, and I would expect a confirmation of that if we do put in a lower high and a lower low. That would be a confirmation of a potential trend change to the downside, and there may be some flagging action reflecting this flat Tenkan Sen, nearly flat Kijun Sen, flat cloud, lower flat cloud in the future. Overall, though, however, the silver chart is still fully bullish in Ichimoku terms. Let's look at the 30-year Treasury bonds. We saw a nice reversal in the 30-year Treasury bonds after putting in a new high up at 177.11. We pull back. It looks really beautiful. I'll show you on the daily also. But we pull back, not quite to this gap fill area that we have below this gap window. So I would not be surprised to see some continuation to the downside with the 30-year Treasury bond. And potentially even a test of the Tenkan Sen, which may or may not still be at the 169.17 level when we reopen. And I just wanted to show you how it looks on the daily because it looks quite nice. You see that the daily came down and tested the Kijun Sen and then put in a very strong bounce. Now, part of that very strong bounce happened to be occurring as we were getting the news about the Turkish coup d'etat was breaking out, or what coup de, whatever it is in Turkish. I don't speak Turkish. News was just breaking at the close, so we got a lot of bond buyers that came in late just on that news. So but it did happen at a very interesting level at just a few ticks below the Kijun Sen support. Let's see, I think the low was 171.13 and the Kijun Sen's at 171.18. So look for the Kijun Sen to hold as support in the future, as well as moving back to the weekly. the Tenkan-sen down there are 169.17. Let's look at the 10-year. Oops. That's NetSuite in case you're interested. Zen, similar to the to ZB, except taking a bounce off the Tenkan-sen, but it actually didn't even make it all the way down to the Tenkan-sen. The Tenkan-sen on the weekly for Zen is 131.225. The low was at 131.25. So you know, several ticks above that is where the bounce occurred. So if we do get a move lower on ZN after this trend reversal, trend change to the downside, I would expect another potential test of that 131.225 Tenkan-sen level. If we do move even lower below that, we could possibly close this gap down to the 131, let's see, 131.16, 160 area, which happens to correspond not too far away from the Kijun-sen, which is at 131.040. Let's look at the dollar. The dollar put in a hammer candle going into the cloud, so still in neutral territory for the dollar, and finding support at the Kijun-sen. If we do move higher, we are going to have resistance at the top of the cloud up here at 97.73. And I think I'm going to end it there. I did want to mention my Etsy store. For those of you who aren't familiar, I do have I have been making some artwork and selling it on Etsy. I'll just give you a quick view. This is my Etsy store. This is some of the stuff that I have for sale there. I make orgonite pyramids, so do look for me on Etsy, Outermost Orgonite, and I have been tweeting links on my Twitter feed, so you can check it out. These pyramids are really great for helping to mitigate the electromagnetic frequency pollution in your office. I know that many of you are sitting in front of screens all the time, like I am, and I found myself to be feeling quite drained from all of this screen usage and Wi-Fi network, computer reality, and so I started making these pyramids, and I found that they've really made a shocking difference in the way the energy feels around my office, around my house, and other people that have been getting them from me have been saying the same thing, noticing definite changes in how their house feels, the quality of sleep that they're getting, etc. So anyway, if you're at all interested, check out my Etsy page. And thanks a lot for watching my video. And good luck trading this week, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.